Alright everyone, here's your tutorial for putting together your phone stand to be able to get sent to the laser cutter. Okay, so basically the laser cutter, what it needs is a sketch that allows you to take a couple different colors, and you're changing the power and the speed setting of the laser. So the way the laser works is kind of burning that material. So the higher the power, obviously the higher the temperatures essentially. And then speed-wise, if you keep it slower, the longer it burns, then the further it'll cut through, right? So it can also engrave, and so there's kind of a couple nice features there. Okay, so what we're going to do, I have the latest where we were at is in Onshape. I've got all my parts created. The assembly there is just to make sure all the sizes are the way we want it to be. Okay, so now if I go back to my part studio, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create some images of each part. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to start off with changing my view here to say shaded without edge. Oh, just kidding. It is hidden edges removed. There it is. Okay, so now it's kind of just an outline shape, and what I really want is a straight-on view of each part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come down to the parts. I'll start with the side. Okay, so I'm going to hide the bottom and the center, for example, and then I'm going to look at it straight from this side. Okay, at this point, all I'm doing is printing it into become a image essentially. So I'll go to print. It gives you kind of that box to work off from, and right now I don't really care. As long as it's within this box, I'm good to go. I'll go to download image. It's rendering, and then when it comes up, it should save it straight to my downloads folder. Okay. The couple things I want to keep track of just for reference here, for example, is the overall dimension. So for example here, I can see that from side to side. If I look in the bottom right hand corner, I'm reminded that it's actually 6 inches. Okay, so from edge to edge, the longest side is 6 inches. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the other sides now. I'm going to have my bottom piece. I'll turn off my side. Let's look at this one from the top, something like this. And same thing. So go up here to the menu, go to print, make sure it's somewhere in that print area, go to download image, and it should feed it into my downloads folder. All right, there's my second piece. And then lastly, I've got my little center piece right here. Okay, let's face it straight on. I'll go up from this side here. Okay, there it is. Go menu, print, and download the image. Okay, now while it's doing that, there's a program that we're going to use called Inkscape. Now, in order to do that, it is actually free, so if you want to download it yourself, you can look for it. Spelled something like this, Inkscape. It's open source, so you can download it to your computer. So if you want to go ahead and have this for your own reference, feel free to do that. For ourselves, if you would rather, go ahead, you can use our virtual machine. So these are all installed on the school computers. So if you're on a school computer, it's actually on there already. You can just search for Inkscape. But for our purposes here, especially if you're doing it from your own computer, use VMware. So if you saw here on our landing page, it can be on any of my Schoology pages. Go to VMware, click on that. You should only have one option, CTE VDI pool, or it should say something like that about CTE. And you're going to log in with your Northville school account. All right, I've already been on here today, so that's why it loaded up pretty quick. Your first time on it, it'll probably take a little bit longer. Okay, once you're here, I'm going to go to Inkscape, and it should show up eventually. Oh, and maybe not. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so it's looking like actually the Inkscape isn't on the virtual machines yet. I will get it put on there very shortly. But for the purposes of this tutorial, in the future you should be able to find it on the virtual machine. For me right now, it is on my laptop, so I'm going to go ahead and just open it up here. Okay, so in the future, search for Inkscape. I will have it up there shortly on the virtual machines as well. Okay, so as this loads up, this is what we call a vector file. Okay, so idea of a vector file is essentially just really clean lines, so that when you send it to the laser cutter, it's able to follow that line. If you've ever seen a laser cutter work, it's just going to follow. You can essentially set two settings, and either a cutting setting or an engraving setting. So when it's cutting, it's going to follow that vector line, so it's going to cut out exactly the line that we want, which is pretty much all we're going to do for ours. And you can also set it up as engraving, and so engraving allows it to change the speeds and the power level, so it's just kind of burning the surface of it, and that's how you get some of those fancy designs. All right, so now that I'm here, I'm going to go to File, Import. And just as a side note, if you're using the virtual machines, what you might need to do is take those files that we just downloaded off of Onshape, and you may need to send it to yourself in an email, something like that. That way you can have it downloaded onto the virtual machine as well. Right, so meaning that you have to go into your email after you logged into the virtual machine and then download them again. All right, so here are my three parts. They're all right in here, so I'm going to import one at a time. All the default settings should be fine there. Okay, so there's my side piece right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in all of them. Okay, so I'll do my the second piece there. Okay, hit OK. There's my bottom piece. Oops. Oops, here. Oops, not letting me click on it for some reason. There it is. What's going on? Alright, well, anyways, let me bring in that last piece first, and then I guess we'll figure it out. Oh, it's getting covered up. That's what it was. Okay, and then the last one, File, Import, and I need that little centerpiece. Okay, hit OK, and there it is. Cool. Okay, so now right now if you see them, they're like, oh, they're totally not sized properly. And so what I need to do is actually change some of the sizing of these. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is the first thing, is I'm going to trace the bitmap. Okay, so I'm going to kind of trace this out so I get a nice shape that I can work off from. I'm going to start with this one on the left hand side. All right, so I'm going to come over here to Path, and it says Trace Bitmap. Right, and what this is going to do is I'm going to take any image and I'm going to just get the lines for them. Okay, so the one I like to use is actually this brightness step. I'm going to do live preview here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And really, because it's a pretty simple shape, I really only need to run maybe 2-3 scans to see if I get a nice clean trace out of it. Okay, so I hit OK, and now if I go to it, okay, I'll exit out of the trace bitmap. If I take a look at this now, okay, what I've essentially created is a couple different variations, and I'm going to actually delete the original because I can see that there's this huge border around it. Okay, I actually don't need this anymore. And this is the bitmap. If I double click on it, you can see that these points, these are the points that the laser cutter is going to follow. So it's essentially going to say connect the dots. I'm going to go from this line to this line, or this point to this point, so on and so forth, all the way around until I cut out my entire shape. All right, so that's kind of how the idea of what we're creating. So now I have just the outline, and remember I did those two traces, and that's just allowing me to see which one I like better. In this case, they both came out pretty much the same, so I'm going to delete the other one. Okay, now the other thing is I'm going to take a look up here, and you see that I have the sizes. Right now it's set up in millimeters. Let's change it to inches. Right, so in terms of the total width, oops, you can see that the total width right now is 18.776 inches. I'm going to hit this lock button. That's going to lock the proportions. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in the number 6. Right, so if you remember in my Onshape, let me go ahead and open that up one more time. I'm going to close out of VMware. If I go to my Onshape here, remember the side, oops, the original one here, I clicked from this edge to this edge is 6 inches. So I'm doing the same thing when I go into Inkscape, and I'm doing the same thing for that. Okay, so now if I zoom in on it, this image is actually just 6 inches wide. Okay, if you want to confirm, you can see that the total height of it right now, let me click on this one again, total height is 1.608. If I come back to my Onshape, if I choose this line and this line, I get 1.600, right? So it's off by a little bit, but that's good enough for what we're doing. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to need to do next is I'm going to get the measurements for the other ones. Let's go to my bottom piece here. I'll go see the total width, click on this edge to this edge. Looking down here, 3.745. All right, let's go ahead and use that number, 3.745. Gonna come back here, scroll out. I could actually bring this back on the paper now. So this piece right here, let me see if I can click on this. Oh man, it's giving me some trouble today. Okay, well I should be able to click on this piece. I'm not sure why. Let's see if I can, let me trace bitmap. Alright, there it goes. I got it selected. So let me trace the bitmap first. I'll do 2 steps again, 2 scans, and hit X out of that. Actually, you know what, while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and do this one too if it lets me. Man, it's being quite strange today. Sorry about that, folks. Well, I've got this one set, so let's go ahead and maybe this is getting in the way. Let me delete that one. Nope, that wasn't it. All right, anyways. Okay, so if I remember here, from edge to edge, right now it says the width of it is 16.598. I'm going to change that to that number I just found, 3.745. Hit enter. Okay, there's my traced out bitmap. Okay. And you know it's a bitmap if you select it like that, it'll turn into those dots. Okay. Like usual, we did a couple scans to see which one came out the best. I like that first one was the darkest, so that's what I'm going with. Alright, finally I'll drag that back on the paper. Oops. It's overlapping a bit. Let me move that over. Alright, there we go. Perfect. And finally, let's do this last one. If it'll let me select it. There it is. Oops. I am not sure why the selection thing is so strange today. Usually I can just grab it, but I'm not sure why. It's just being finicky today. Alright. Alright, maybe if I go back to trace bitmap again, it'll let me do it. Oh, I guess maybe I do have it selected here. Hit OK. Let's see if it got it. Oh, okay, finally. I'm not sure why that took so long. Okay, so I guess I just highlighted over the entire thing. Let's see if it'll let me trace it this time. Okay, brightness steps looks good. Hit OK. There it is. All right, finally. Okay, so now I've got my traced out bitmap. The other one I should be able to delete now. There it is. Let's delete that, finally. Okay, and this is my traced out bitmap. Looks good. Let's zoom in on it a bit. I guess this is what happens when you're using free software, I guess. Alright, so I'm going to hit escape, pull off. Oops. Alright, again, that first one looks like it's the darkest there, so I'm going to use this one. Okay, same process. Go back to Onshape. I'm going to look at that centerpiece, open that up, take a look at it from this front side, and the width of this guy is 1.65. Okay, come here, change this width to 1.65, hit enter. Okay, now it's the size that I expect it to be. I can bring it back over here. Okay, now, sorry this video is going a little longer than I expected, but you know, we're getting there. Okay, so now I've got all my parts in here. If you want, I'll copy this one in a second. We want two sides, right, to close things together. But before I do that, what I want to do is, usually the laser cutter, the way it works is it follows based on color, right? So you can set a color to be a certain power and speed level. And usually the color for cutting, right, we want the laser cutter to cut all these edges as well as our holes. The one you want to use is red. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Object, Fill and Stroke, and it should open up a menu. Maybe it's just a lag today. I don't know what's going on. All right, but anyways, right now for the fill, we actually want to set that to no paint. Right, it looks like it cleared it, but if I come over here to Stroke Paint, I'm going to come to Flat Color, and I want it to be 100% red. Okay, so meaning it should be 255, all of it's red. You should notice that my outline turned red. In addition, what I need to do is stroke style. I want this to be really thin. Okay, everyone, so instead of 1 millimeter, I might change that to like let's see how 0.05 looks. Okay, make sure you do this. If you don't change the width of it, it's going to go over a bunch of times and you get it to burn really badly. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for all of these, and just for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through this quickly. Okay, I'm going to change the stroke paint, make sure it's all red, and again, the width of this, I'm going to make this really thin. I'm going to say 0.05. Okay, that should have done it for that one. The color's a little bit strange. Let me see one more time. Oh, red. Okay, that should do it. Let's see. Alright, that looks a little better. Good. Actually, is the red on here looks a little off, so let me just double check it. Nope, that one should be good. Okay. Alright, anyways, then let's come back to this last one. And the stroke, make that fully red. No fill. And 0.0, let's go a little bit thick, 0.05. Okay. Alright, the color on it's a little bit lighter than I would expect, but let me see if I missed a setting here. Okay, 255.00. Nope, that should be good. The fill is off. Alright, well, either way, as long as it's coming out red, we should be good to go. And let's check this one. Sorry, one last thing. Yeah, that looks... Oh, I have the fill in. Okay, that's probably what it was. Alright, so now we have that all set up. I actually probably want to copy this guy, so I want two of these, right? So copy, and you could go ahead and paste that one. Okay, so now I've got the two sides are set up. Click and drag that. Okay, and this is what I'm gonna send to the laser cutter, right? So this is the file I will need. The final thing I will mention here is if you want to add something to engrave, this is where you can just bring in any, artwork or image you find off Google, right? What I've been recommending is maybe if you have a dream school, or maybe a school that you know you're going to go to next year, if you're a senior, then this is a great spot to maybe do something like that. You can put it in your dorm room or in your own bedroom right now. All right, so for mine, let me see. I think I have a couple images already saved. Let me see if I go under, let me try in my personal folder. I think I had some laser cutter stuff in here before. Okay, let me try that real quick. Okay. All right, let's stick with the classic Michigan M. Right, I'll bring that one in. Okay. And then for this one, you can actually keep this as is because it should be clear background. If you want to, you can still, if there's a background to it, you want to trace bitmap, you can do that as well. That makes it a little bit cleaner. Okay, but now I'm going to just stick that, let's say, right in there. And now when I send that to the laser cutter, it will notice that everything else is red. Everything in red it will cut. Everything not in red it will engrave. And so I can get a nice little Michigan M in there, and then the rest of it will all get cut out nice and clean. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I did notice something here that it's giving me 2 outlines. Just noticed that. Okay, so if you need to, you might need to tidy it up so that, if you click on individual dots, if you want to make it just one nice clean line, what you would need to do is for each one of these dots, you hit delete. You can select multiple at a time if you're really careful about it. Just be careful not to select ones that you don't want. Okay, and by doing this, you'll get a much cleaner cut around your laser cutter, and you'll get exactly what you want. And actually looking at this, I might go back here. Looks like this inner cut might even be cleaner, so I'll get rid of, yeah, maybe I'll get rid of these outer ones. Okay, so all I'm doing again is kind of selecting some of these individual points, and I'm deleting them, hitting the delete key. And again, it takes a little bit tedious, but that's how you get some really nice cut lines on the laser cutter. Okay, now in the interest of time here, I'm just going to do this for one of them. So I'll just do it for this first one here. But for yours, you'll want to do this for each of your shapes. Okay, let me see here. Making some good progress. Okay, let's see. Just to let you know, on the mouse, I am just scrolling, holding down the scroll wheel to pan, and then holding down control while I zoom in and out, and that's what lets me kind of control this a little bit better. All right. Okay. Well, anyways, you get the deal here. I don't think I necessarily need to do all of these, but it's hard for me to not at least finish this section. Okay. All right. Okay, so I've got my first kind of shape set up there. Like I said, you might want to get rid of the outlines on these other ones as well. Okay, and again, once you're all done with that, you've got it all tidied up and clean. Make sure you hit save, file save, and you'll notice that it says SVG. That's a standard vector graphic, I think it is. What I will ask you is please save it with your name, and as well as the title of your project. Okay, so Mr. Pack phone stand. For right now, I'll just save it to my desktop. That's what you'll submit to me on Schoology, and then I'll get these cut out for you. Next class, you'll have those ready to glue together, and you'll have your phone stand, or if you want to go crazy and try something else, doesn't have to be a phone stand. That's the basic idea, though, to get objects from Onshape into vector graphics to be sent to the laser cutter. All right, good luck, everyone.